Oh yeah, Black Sun in the Hizzle, all for shizzle dizzle. Got an excellent show here today. But first, I want to say shout out to MD. He's got a family emergency, so he won't be able to make this show. But let me, man, shout out to Deacon, shout out to Twin, shout out to MD, man. Let me remind some people that we have a show today. And let me get on here. Okay, y'all, hold on one second, y'all.
Hey. Uh-oh.
What's
Hold on.
going on? What's going on?
How you doing?
Doing good, doing good,
Ah,
doing good.
okay.
Yeah,
Wait, hold on, because I'm getting your call at the same time. Let me just
right.
this. Okay, got it. Okay, wait. No. Okay. Technology.
Right.
All right. We every time, we have a new setup.
Right.
So I always have to get used to something new.
Yep, that's right.
But that's life in itself, right?
Yes.
Nothing stays the same unless you're dead, and then it stays exactly the same. Hello, twin. It's good to have you here. Hey, Deacon.
Yeah.
Okay.
MD said he
NKrumah
wanted.
into his.
Yeah. Um. Okay. So MD, he said he had a family emergency, so he's not going to make it today.
Oh, totally understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just happened, and I sent Yang a message, so hopefully he gets it.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah. Okay. So let me see if I could get our setup the way that it's like fitting us here.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're good.
Okay.
So, I think regardless, I mean, we have so much to talk about this
Yeah.
week and so
Absolutely.
much amazing research and conversations happening right now because there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of conversation happening in the media.
Yep.
Sorry, one second. Come in. Thank you. Thank you so much. So there's a lot happening in the media right now when we're discussing, of course, the current financial situation.
Right.
There's a lot of fear. I learned a new acronym, FUD. I
Fud.
like this
Uh
FUD.
oh.
FUD.
Fud. Elmer Fudd.
I'm a FUD.
Bunch of Elmer
Yeah.
Fudd.
What is it? Fear, uncertainty, and oh gosh, fear, uncertainty, and not disillusionment. I'm like losing that D, but basically, we're talking about uh, emotions here,
Right.
and so our emotions are very wrapped up in our financial situation because
Right.
we've been taught to connect that directly. Um, and for good reason, because as we discussed last week, for Black Americans, America's financial situation really determined how many lynchings took place at the turn of the 21st century. It
Mm-hmm.
really determined whether or not Black communities would be allowed to continue operating and thriving,
Right.
or if governments, citizens, non-Black citizens particularly, would uh, create a all-out assault against us.
Right.
So this is a really uncomfortable time because it really asks the question, with this current administration, with all these bills being put out,
Exactly.
navigating our way through these bills and understanding them, and what it means at the cusp of just at the break of the George Floyd incident that inspired worldwide protests for
Mm-hmm.
Black Lives Matters, and not just for Black Lives Matters, but for people who really understand that the civil rights movement still has a lot of movements to make. Um, but what does that mean where we are today? So Blackson, thank you for inviting me to come back and do a part two. talking about Black economics, particularly
Right.
where we stand in this present day and
Hmm.
how we can move forward. Because I think that's the most important answer to get to. We don't want to just talk about what's happened. We want to know how we can learn from what's happened so that we can do something about where we are today and then create the future we want to see.
That's right. Um, so
Sorry.
I know we talked about how like the Obama, I mean, I said Obama, Biden administration was
Yeah.
paying the farmers 38,000 to for each acre of crops destroyed, oil wasted. I mean,
Mm,
resources that I was. It looks like to me they're trying to manufacture a man-made famine to me because I can't
mm,
think of any other reason why you would waste so many good crops. Good crops. I mean, the look on
right.
the farmers' faces, they were just like they look sick, man. They really look sick. Like, dang, I really don't want to do this, but they're paying me, so oh well. But it's like in the back of your mind, and you human conscious. You're like, this ain't right. This can't be right.
Right, right.
You
I mean,
know.
I think that it raises a lot of questions. So, some of the things that we know that have been taking place since this uh, pandemic,
Hmm.
whatever people want to
Pandemic,
call
yeah.
it.
Hmm.
There's been a lot going on that raises a lot of interesting questions about our economic situation. So, some of the players who've been pivotal in this pandemic, this coronavirus episode, are also big players in this episode that we are experiencing now, and this uncertainty that we're about to go into. For example, Bill Gates. Why did he
Right,
purchase so much farmland and so much property in general in these recent years, and why does he have such a hand in our future agricultural
agriculture. Right.
um, infrastructure? I mean, once again, the first question I asked, when he became our World Health spokesperson, voice for this global pandemic, I just kept asking myself, what does an IT guy have to do with a global pandemic? How does he have authority or know-how
Right.
to have any authority or any authoritative voice in this conversation whatsoever? And yet
Right.
he is considered, I mean, who, World Health Organization, CDC, is really considering what this guy has to say. And as
Jeez.
far as
Yeah.
I remember, he has no degrees or no studies, no formal studies in in epidemiology. He has no history of scientific degrees or studies in any of
Right.
the disciplines of study of scientific study.
Right.
He's not a doctor, and yet he is a huge voice in
Right.
our vaccination conversation. So
Right.
that really like rang a lot of bells for
Red
me, and
bells.
my
Yeah.
red flags were
Yeah.
waving, going,
I said red bells, red flags. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
feeling comfortable about this guy having anything to say about anything except for why my computer is crashing.
Now let
And
me ask you, Nature Mom. Can you sent me the thing about the farmers destroying their crops? Did that
mhm.
happen at the same time that he purchased the potato farm? I mean, what's going on here?
I
Is
mean,
this
so the purchases that he's been making for land in general have been going on since the start of the COVID-19
okay?
epidemic.
Hmm.
His involvement with agriculture is not new.
Okay.
He's had a huge hand in many projects that took place in Africa, in
Right.
India, and with what I would have to say, very suspicious results. So before COVID-19 and him being considered a world leader in that conversation, there was a lot of complaints. There was a lot of people who were talking about, at young ages, they were completely sterilized,
Oh
unable
wow.
to start families,
Yeah.
based on his Bill and Melinda Gates program. Um,
So these are the
there
vaccines they were injecting in the people in the
these were
third
the
world.
vaccines,
Okay.
particularly in India. Like, the most complaints that I could find at that time were coming from India.
Right.
When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, by the time it hit America, these videos were
Well,
disappearing,
oh,
and then you
right.
were having these, like, doctors, by name only, come onto the scene of YouTube. Most, sorry, you guys, but we love YouTube. It's full of great information, but it is not a viable source. It is
Right,
not peer
right.
reviewed. It is not, being examined. Should we say, it's not being examined without
No,
agenda.
no scientific scrutiny either. Yeah, it's just yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So, when I'm thinking about academic libraries and resources to get information versus Google versus YouTube, I'm sorry,
Right,
but yeah,
right.
they do fall very, very far behind in where
Mhm,
I'm going to get
mhm.
my data from. And, as I shared with you last week, I'm very, very careful even in the scientific community, because we know that we have a
Yeah,
history of pseudoscientism. We have a history of racial scientism, and sponsored scientism. So we
that's right.
really have to check our sources and know what we're looking at and who's funding what and what is the agenda. Are we looking at a source that was completely, studied and researched, because this information would be vital to the advancement of humankind, and
Mhm.
you know uh people supported it across many different lines? Or is this information that particular companies, funded and made
Right.
sure that had a bias point of
I'll,
view
I
in
always
the
say that,
end?
Nature Mom, like all these I always tell people if you have any evil like people say, "Oh, well, eating plants, this and that, and and meat's good for you." I was like, "Oh, who funded that?" You know what I'm saying? And all usually the meat, dairy, and eggs, they got enough money to fund their own media, their own propaganda. So yeah, that's a good point. But go ahead. I'm
I
meaning
mean,
to.
I would have to agree with you. Like, if I'm trying to learn about healthy eating,
Mm-hmm.
and I am getting information from the world leading oncology centers on,
Mm-hmm.
meat's good for you. If they're saying that, then I'm
Right.
going to listen to you. Most of them are actually saying fruits and vegetables are the best sources of,
Mm-hmm.
regenerating ourselves and rebuilding our bodies towards health, and to prepare ourselves for, cancer, for, fighting different diseases. But if I find a source who is, if I'm finding a group of ranchers, or who's telling me how great meat is for me, I'm
Right.
definitely going to be looking for
Right. Right.
alternative
That's right.
sources
Well,
to
like you said, but
count.
it goes back to peer review, and a lot of these
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
they try to
yeah.
pass off as legitimate science sources, but you know, um, let me ask you real quick because
Okay, please.
now I want to get back to like the farming because
Mm.
we were talking about last week how the us controlling a state. Shout out to Angel, the Mississippi campaign, that we could. And I think Europe has already done it in some places where they were refusing Monsanto seeds. Is this?
Mostly we're talking about Russia,
Uh huh.
who refused Monsanto's. They
Oh,
completely rejected Monsanto's.
right.
In
Russia.
actuality. Yeah, it was Russia who did
Hmm.
it. Um,
Interesting.
Very interesting. I mean, there are other countries who resisted Monsanto's as well. I believe I would have to check the source, but Greenland was also one
Right.
of the other. And I might be confusing information because Greenland during the 2008 9 real estate bubble, where all the countries wanted to bail out their banks.
Right.
I remember that
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
Iceland was
Iceland.
one
Yeah.
of the countries that absolutely refused to bail out their banks. And in the end, what happened was that every citizen became wealthier by
Right.
refusing to give bank bailouts. Where when you look at United States, where I mean, a blank check was given to our banks
Thanks to
by
Obama.
the Obama
Right.
blank checks.
Right.
And I think that the numbers have come out to I was given two different pieces of information. So the first was 19 trillion that the banks wrote themselves in checks.
Right.
And the second source, the second wave of stimulus money that went to the banks was over 40 trillion, but it still
Mhm.
is being counted because that money just went into a black hole. And America is still paying that bill. Each American citizen is still paying that bill
Right.
ever since. And now we are in another, bear market. We're in another economic bust,
Mhm.
and more bailouts are being ushered in. For example, the forgiveness of the student loans. Now, I have no problem whatsoever about forgiving these student loans and putting money back into the economy. But what is actually happening is upper echelon once again is getting the majority. I mean, I think that the
Mhm.
the maximum forgiveness was supposed to be 20,000 per student,
Right.
and what's actually happening are the wealthiest, same, you know, descendants
Right.
of shadow slave owners are receiving over I think I'd read today one got 1.8 or 1.4 billion
Right. Right.
in student loan forgiveness. Another got 2.3 million. Sorry, million if I didn't say that before. I heard billion, but it's hard to hear sometimes. um Million in forgiveness. One journalist, she got 1 sorry, 108 thousand plus in forgiveness. Now, these aren't your average everyday people like you and me who are going to Howard University, or who are, going to local universities and come from middle to low income class
Right.
families, who really need this stimulus in our economy. These are people who are already, they've already gotten tons of connections of bailouts during the pandemic. They've got tons of bailouts for
Mhm.
the bank crisis and the 2008 9 real estate crisis. They keep getting bailouts.
Well,
And the people who keep suffering are the rest of us who are left.
Nature Mom. Now you're making me wonder about these cities now, because when we go back to Reconstruction, were these cities taxed?
So when you say these cities, which cities
Tulsa,
particularly?
Oklahoma, Rosewood, all the prominent black cities.
Okay, so not only were these cities being taxed, of
Okay,
course,
okay, okay.
yeah, I mean, they
So
were a
even
part
under
of
the
the American
taxation, they were still
system.
okay.
The, the when the opportunity came for Black Americans to be considered individual human beings, so that's the first thing. Taxation was the first part of it. And if you
Right,
weren't able to pay your parts, then you became subject to someone else carrying your debt, which put you back into a sense of slavery or a
right.
sense of debt, for one thing.
Indentured servant.
Um,
Right.
yeah. And on top of that, when you when these communities were able to stand on their own and they were able to pay their taxation, they were able to gladly pay their taxation. They were saying, please take our tax money and leave us alone. Um,
Okay.
then there became the demand through the New Deal, was okay.
FDR.
Now every American must relinquish their gold because we are no longer gonna back our greenback with gold. We need that gold returned back to the American government. So we are asking every single one of you to confiscate to volunteer your gold to this good country. And if you don't, you're going to go to jail.
Right.
So there was already a fight brewing there because, there were many, as we spoke before, who they fought for their freedoms to be considered a human being in the country, and the little few pieces of valuables that they collected to be able to start their new future, it was all they had. Like we said last week, they were given nothing. They were
Right.
thrown out from every community, and the communities that were open to receiving them that were overthrown. And so, where were they left in the end? They were left with the last valuables that they had in hand. And then the American government says to them, now we need you to give us those because we need them more than you need them.
Right.
And so there were already tensions growing because a lot of citizens did not feel that they were represented in the same way
No taxation, not representation.
as their white counterparts. There was no federal protections, as it was promised through the emancipation, as it was promised through the
Right.
New Deal, as it was promised through Reconstruction. There was no matter of fact, when you're talking about these communities that were thriving on their own, as I had to uncover with a heavy heart last week, it was our American government on a local and a federal level
Right.
that are still implicated for dropping bombs, for
Yeah.
gunning down American citizens who were black skinned people, and because of the lack of true representation that took place. So when we're looking at where our government is saying, well, you are our citizen, so relinquish your gold, relinquish your silver,
Right.
relinquish your fine goods to us, because we are going to give you our notes, which we now call fiat money.
Right. Right.
And we expect that you're going to be happy with this because we're letting you be here. You
So that
didn't
was
you
part of the decline of the prominent black cities was the turning of the gold, and
um
well, I know the violence. We talked about
I
that last
mean,
week, but
yeah, the violence I think
the
is
main.
absolutely the main
Okay.
source of the abolishing
Okay.
of the stronghold of the black communities themselves. It
Okay.
was, I mean, let's be honest with you. If you've got a nice, my husband's family is from a lineage, and we're talking
Right.
about like hundreds years of lineage of rope making. So I've learned a lot about rope making, in the last couple of decades. And, you know, when you make a very strong multi-cord rope system, it takes a lot to destroy this. So imagine the black communities were these multi-strand. We had our own physicians and surgeons, we had our
Right.
own dentists, we had our own, arcades, music systems, we had our
Now, how
own.
did this build up? Because I think a lot of the fear we're getting a lot of pushback, a lot of fear. And I know I was trying to explain that this would be in steps, in stages. So it wasn't just poof, you have this bustling city with dentists and doctors and all that stuff. I mean, was it a build up? Because I know
uh, uh,
agriculture obviously has to be there to feed the people, but
I
how?
mean, yeah, okay, so you're talking about the members that were the infrastructure of these
Hmm.
communities.
Hmm.
So a lot of these members of this infrastructure came from the South. They escaped from the South
Okay.
as descendants of slavery. They went to the North because the North was trying to gain power, financial power over the South.
Okay.
This financial power was mostly driven by a need to have a voting power, because with the financial power that the South had, for every 3 slaves that a plantation owner
Three
owned
fifths.
in the South, you had an additional vote. So
Yeah.
imagine, I mean, at any given time, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all of these people that they call the four founders, of the forefathers of America, they had 200 plus slaves at any given time.
Right.
Multiply that by 3, and that's how many votes you have for your own singular body. So that was a lot of political power over the people who wanted to build wealth and industrialize in the North.
Right.
And so the people who were in the North, they weren't they weren't these Confederacy, rich, powerful slave owners who were industrializing through agriculture. These were people who were actually descendants of indentured slaves.
Right.
So you have a lot of your Italian descents, your Irish descents, people who weren't even considered white until much later in history. They were not considered white the Anglo Americans.
Okay.
Um, I know, a very interesting point. A lot of people don't even know.
Well, no,
Yeah.
no, no. But yeah, what I wanted to learn was, or what I wanted to really get at was, I mean, you said you had black people, I guess, up north being educated, some
So,
becoming
yeah, when
different
they left
fields.
the South,
Right.
they took opportunities that were not available to them in the South. They educated themselves freely. They
So
took
what made them come back to the south to these cities,
um when you say what made them, okay, so there were a
or
lot of
what
people
inspired them? What I mean.
who there were a lot of
So,
people who didn't leave the South. There were a lot of people in the
okay.
South who were born free.
Right.
So these people had should have had the opportunity to industrialize themselves with the rest of the world. The issue was
Yeah, but what I'm trying to figure out, because you said they started from nothing.
yeah.
So is it a conglomerate of them people staying, the blacks being educated up north, then coming back down south? Like what?
Uh, so I don't think it really. I mean, I think you're talking
Okay,
about
so I'm
this
trying
great.
to find out. Yeah, I'm
You're
trying to
talking about
find
this
out
great
this build up of this
migration.
city. Yeah, because
Right. So
the
this
key.
migration, so first there was the escape. It's the escape from the South towards freedom.
Okay, all
And
right,
many slaves were trying to escape towards freedom. Freedom was
right.
in the North because the Northerners were willing to support uh, Black freedom in order to gain more political votes. So when these people moved north, and then you had the Civil War. Sorry,
Right.
it's later. When you had the Civil War that took place, and the North actually they accomplished their goals. They actually won with the help of the Black people who left the South and came and joined their numbers. So
Okay.
once once these people won, the Black people had this idea, okay, we have a place to be that's accepting us, and we are able to be free. The reality of the situation was there were a lot of people with their agenda, just like today. They only wanted their agenda met. Once their agenda was met and the North won the war over the South,
Hmm.
then they could care less what happened to the Black people. They
Right.
could care less, and many of them, as MD and I spoke about last week, even conspired to remove people who found their place in education, found their place
Okay.
in government. They conspired and they
So there was
created
a new
coups.
hostility in the
There
North.
wasn't a new, it was a
Okay, it was
constantly,
ongoing.
once their agenda was met, we don't need you anymore. I mean, let's like call it
Okay,
what it
so this
is.
would cause the force back down to the South.
So let's say it forced people of black people and descendants of chattel
So do
slavery
you see what I'm trying to
to
go, Nature
move.
Mom? I'm trying to
I totally
find out the
get you.
nucleus
There,
of
it
this
forced them to
drive.
move.
Okay.
So the question was, when you are that descendant and you're asking yourself, okay, I can't go back to the plantation, which some did, and some went back and they worked with their previous slave owners,
Right.
supposedly as partners, sharecroppers, and we
Okay.
know how that ended up. It didn't end up that great either.
Right.
So some went in that direction. Some tried to establish their own communities, and that's where you had these booming communities throughout the North that were
Mhm.
all black communities. Then you had great places like Louisiana where people were mixing. So, the Native Americans, the Spanish, the French,
Right.
everything was great as long as you stayed in your social classes, and your social class at that particular time were mostly based on color and, of course, economics. Economics is always, behind American politics. Um, and and then you had people who were left. I mean, and there's literally literature and paintings where, I mean, people would say, throw them out in the street like a dog's, even their fleas would starve. I can't tell
Mhm.
you exactly which source. I mean, that's from, my college history class, thank you, Mr. Nelson, many years ago. So I don't have that source on me, but boy, did it stick in my head that that's how we were regarded, after like winning our freedom and winning our place in America with these people, and these people who overthrew the government just absolutely like thought that dogs and fleas were more valuable than we were, as far as life itself. So
So I see what you're saying. There was a lot of things that could cause a drive back from the North. A lot of
yeah, so
hostilities,
and then
right?
you had this
And
great
some went
movement
to
to
the
the
right,
west. Yeah,
right.
from these eastern states to the west, because the west had this,
Gold
they were
rush.
accepting everyone. The gold rush, they didn't
Mhm.
care what nationality you were, as long as you could dig a great hole and find us some gold. And we're not just talking about the yellow gold rush, we're talking about the black gold rush as well. Black crude oil
Oil, yeah.
that was being found and pumped all over the west. So, they didn't care what, if you could labor, come. So,
Okay.
it's very interesting how in different points across history, as long as we, had an economic gain
Right.
for the ruling class, for the people in power, then we have value,
So
very
the
similar
so
to
the
today.
the roads, it was multifaceted basically. You had, I
Very,
mean,
very.
many
As it
choices.
is
Right.
today. I mean, when are you
Right.
valuable? You're valuable today if you can bounce a ball well, if you can, wear the tiniest outfit and halfway sing a note with some auto tune and look good, then you're valuable. There's no more like, Beethoven, level musicians, because quick money gets you, so much more than actual like long-term skill and
So we
let's
look at
say
today, Nature Mom.
non-entertainment value.
Right. So we're looking at today. We're trying to, I mean,
Mm.
we have, situation where the economy, the gas prices are high, but we could talk about why that is. Joe
Uh,
Biden, of course. But what I want to, I guess, kind of get at is, what would be the, I guess, the parallel solution? Because I mean, there's no more gold rush.
Right.
There's
Right.
no uh, black oil, Texas tea. There's no
Right.
more. Well, I mean, they pretty much got that all up. So, what would be the new, in your opinion, just looking at past history? Uh, what would be the, I guess, drive for like a, I don't know, like a state, like a campaign Mississippi? Like, would it be agriculture? Would it be, I don't know, what would, I guess, drive people to build up another economy?
Okay, so I'm assuming that you're speaking specifically about Black communities building their own economic backbone again, and
Yeah.
taking that brave leap again, because we
Right.
know
Right.
when we learn from history, this is what history is trying to teach us: is that if we
Right.
stand independent, then we're going to be gunned down, and that's what history has taught us. And so what is, besides being a rapper, and, a ball player, or a sex tape, releaser,
Hmm.
what brings us value in this modern day, I think, is what you're asking me. And I think that, okay, I'm gonna break this down. There's this guy, this economic, you know higher up, I guess you would call him,
Okay.
Ray Dalio. This is a guy who has spent his lifetime really like understanding economics, who's really broken down a cycle of understanding, like, what are the, he even wrote a book called Principles for dealing with the changing world order, which I
Hmm.
thought was very interesting, um, because it's looking at these cycles throughout history, and he goes all the way back to, ancient Chinese dynasties, and he's looking at how these cycles keep happening, very
Hmm.
similar to the cycle that we're going through now. And he finds all of these, pattern behaviors that gives us some clues, so that we're able to predict, in the way that he learned to predict, that this is going to happen again. So when I answer your question, like, what is a motivating factor for us? Okay, so I'm going to break it down. Motivating factor number one is that, if we keep waiting for our 40 acres and the mule, we're going to be laying on the side of the road, with our crack and drugs and everything else they keep pouring into, and guns
Right.
into our neighborhoods, waiting to die,
Right.
and waiting for our children to die. So if we
Oh,
don't,
no, wait. Let's not wait for no handout subsidies. Now, I'm for
yeah,
reparations, but don't even wait for that either.
I mean, reparations, I think, will have to be a very organized and structured,
Absolutely.
and, let's say, completely sovereign. Um, you know,
Mm.
uh,
Well, you say sovereign. Explain that.
so uh, when I'm reading the White House policies and bills, and the way that they want to, give us money, it very much reminds me of of post Confederacy speech about how Black people, have minds like children, and need to be governed, and need, someone to, they're so poor and feeble
Well, you
minded that they
niggers
need
need
people.
some guidance. Hell, we can't just give y'all money and then
And
reverence
and
fund or
why do you think
goddamn.
that they haven't given us reparations yet? Germany's done it.
Right.
Belgium has done it. All these
Hmm.
other countries, I mean, they've given us South Africa, though it's not even in their country. And
Right.
our country has dropped bombs on our neighborhoods, and is documented. Our local governments have overthrown and slain our people repeatedly,
Well,
and it is
could it be because
documented.
that they don't have the funds?
Okay, so let's be honest. No, they don't have the funds,
Right.
and that's why they keep on bailing out banks with printing money. That's why they keep
Right.
on
They
writing
don't have
checks
the
by
money.
printing
Right.
money. But question is, why aren't they printing money to give it to us? They they are
But
not
wouldn't that
printing
cause
money.
inflation though, Nature Mom? Wouldn't that
It
cause a
already
really
is, isn't it?
right? But it wouldn't even get worse. I mean, we already got
Okay, I'm
food prices.
sorry, but the 2011 crisis, the 2001 crisis, the 2008-9 crisis, and the current crisis that we've happened to is long behind, decimating and destroying and genociding a whole group of people for 400 plus years. So I think that we were in the front of the line if you're going to print money, not in the back.
No, I
And I
agree with
think
that.
that
I think everybody in
so
the chat watching this show, everybody will agree with you 100%.
So I
NKrumah.
think that that's the point. Like, why, if we've been in the forefront, we built your country for you. The Capitol monument was built and by the blood of Black people. Every single place in America that you can turn around and look at were built on the backs of Black people. White wealth is
Right.
built on white American wealth is built
Mhm.
on the backs of Black people. So how do we end up at the end of the line where someone still thinks that they have to dole out the money for us? And I
Right.
tell you why. Because we have not shown in this modern era that we are organized enough once again.
Mm.
Because if they were dealing with the Black people of the 19 turn of the century, so if we're talking about late 1800s, early 1900s, all the way up until the 1930s and 40s, they would have a very different conversation with us.
Right. Right.
We weren't the
Absolutely.
Black people who are looking for acceptance and who are looking for
That's facts.
European standards of beauty, of positions. We didn't
Facts.
need any of that, and we still don't. I think that
Right.
the issue is that we've been so well brainwashed and we've been so well
And I'm glad you
conditioned.
brought that up because Yanga had a concern about reparations, saying that he doesn't want us to put it back into the system. And I understand and respect that argument. However, I have
So
a
I'm sorry, he
slightly
doesn't want to put what into the system?
okay. So he was saying, and Yang, I don't want to. He's in the chat. He was saying that we should change the system first because if we don't, the reparations will go back into the system. Basically, go right back to the white man, which I kind of agree with, and I kind of don't at the same time because I feel like the system that we're in, if we, this is where MD said if we had the reparation, it would give us the push to make those investments. But Yang, on the other hand, he wants to do away and just comes up with a whole new another system, an economical system. So
I
that's
mean,
where we're
okay. So if I understand what you're saying, and, be patient with me.
okay.
What I understand you saying is that Yanga believes that we have to change the system in order to get reparations first. Change what system? I mean, this is the system. Hi, Yanga.
Hey,
How
no,
are
I don't.
you?
I'm good. Great show. I missed some of it, and I only got a few
Okay.
minutes. I don't believe we
Okay.
have to
Yeah.
change the system to get reparations first.
Okay.
We
Okay.
deserve
Well,
our
apologies.
reparations. I
Okay. So
believe
say
that.
that again. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, I don't believe we have to change the system to get reparations first.
Okay.
We're owed our reparations. What I'm saying is,
Right.
if like the old saying, you can't do the same thing expecting a different result. Don't they say that's insanity?
Albert
So
Einstein. Yes.
if we're in the same system and money is released to us, we're going to get the same outcome. The difference is you won't get a Toyota, you'll get a Cadillac.
Okay.
You won't get the Converse, you'll get the Nike Air. So until we have an economic philosophy, like you were talking about the 1930s, all the way up prior to the 1960s, the civil rights movement, one of my arguments has been is due to racism, discrimination, and just the blatant exclusion of Black people into white America. Even though it was horrific situation, it gave us an opportunity to build our wealth because we were forced to build one another. With 1965, with the integrationist laws, we also took on, it wasn't just about us being protected by the laws. We lost Negro pennies and the power of the Negro penny. And we began to assimilate and homogenize. And so not only did we lose the power of the Negro penny, we lost, I think, even a lot of the desire to be businessmen and to pass businesses onto our children and really got engrossed in materialism and consumer capitalism. What I'm saying is that the majority of Black people here practice consumer capitalism and don't understand capitalism. And yet we yell it. We don't have the capital to be investment cap. The only way to make money in America on capitalism is to be an investment capitalist. We think we're making money because we have a little something in the savings and stuff. And there's a guy, Goldman, man, I got to get his name. And he talks about that. He talks about if you're saving money, you're not making money. The only way to make money in America is to invest money, invest in capitalism. So I said all that just to say, if we keep doing the same system, I don't see it upward mobility for the masses of Black people. Maybe a few Negroes may squeeze through, but it largely it would be the same thing.
Okay. So I want to just comment on a couple of things that you said. Integration. Our acceptance of integration, as far as history has shown me, is our acceptance of American corruption and our forgiving of their attempt to genocide us. So yes, this is the issue, is that when we accept integration on American let me be very specific, of Jim Crow American standards, we are saying we forgive you for the lynchings. We forgive you for destroying and dropping bombs on our communities and all of your governments being implicated in this. And we don't expect you to genuinely repair your actions. And therefore, we do accept you giving us whatever subsidies you think that we are allowed. We do accept that you will put us at the bottom of your capitalistic totem pole because you need someone to be on the bottom, and we are accepting that position. And we absolutely accept that you will never come clean with the truth, and that you will never ever.
Oh snap! Dang, she was on the roll. Oh, I know, Yanga. I know. Yanga, you're muted. You're muted. Oh shoot! Dang it!
No!
Oh man!
No! NKrumah is the bomb.
Yeah, she was on the roll.
She is the bomb, yo.
Oh shit! Let me send her another image. That's probably the internet. That's the internet. Yeah, that her internet is.
I like to believe that I was saying things that were similar to what she, maybe not as articulate and as in depth, but Deacon of reality, right, Deacon? No, but,
I was shut down. But okay, so her internet is recharging. It's recharging, y'all. She just texted me. All right, so yeah. I mean, like I said, she's full of surprises, bro. I didn't know where she was gonna go.
You know why?
I don't know.
You know why it doesn't? I'm gonna tell you why it doesn't surprise me. Because she's an intelligent Black woman, and when you do your research, you see the effects of capitalism. You see capitalism pre-Jim Crow and post-Jim Crow, and like she's saying, and are doing Jim Crow, not pre and during Jim Crow and post-Jim Crow. But like she was saying, and I totally agree, when you look at it, the economic disparities only grow. Like she said, capitalism, and I thought I've said this. You know, maybe I'm not as pretty as
you said it. No, you said it. And that's why I'm glad she's on here, because now I didn't know her stance, Yanga. I just know that she texted me about the show that we did, and she was like, well, y'all both wrong. Come on. And so I didn't know where she was going to come. I did not know. I just know that, I mean, we definitely got to do the show tomorrow, because we're going to deal with Canadian socialized medicine, because we going to deal with that, Yanga, with Zanzi.
Okay.
I don't know where he stands. So this is all just boom, the arena.
I mean, she said a truth. The way that America practices capitalism, especially post Jim Crow, post segregation,
right? I mean, it was on point. I can't refute that.
Yeah, it has to have a lower class. You have to have what we call the nigger class. You have to have a lower, and it doesn't necessarily, when I say nigger, like not necessarily Black. You have to have and a class that you can exploit.
Right.
So the system, which is a part of capitalism, why I'm always talking about the system, ensures that you have an exploitable class. And that's what she's talking about. And Black people, after integration, after the assimilation, after the homogenation, have accepted willingly to be the bottom of the totem, to be the lower class. And we have a few people whom I don't believe really understand capitalism to that degree that will push this system in its totality without some changes. And I'm not talking about reform. I'm talking about
radical,
real quantitative changes in the system that enables everyone an opportunity, not just at a decent standard of living, but an opportunity at prosperity and success, at upward mobility. And the way the system stands now, it does not offer that. And especially for Black Americans, it will allow, in my opinion, of course, a few Negroes to come through to be able to say, to put on the hypocritical face, to be able to say, oh, racism is a long time ago or this, but racism, discrimination is intrinsically interwoven into the fabric of capitalist America, or the way that America practices capitalism in the system. It's interwoven in it. And so you're not going to find any refuge, any recourse, any type of reprisals in the current system. It's just not going to happen. Uh-oh, think we lost son. So that's what I'm saying. Very interesting conversation. I hope they come back on because I couldn't be on long. But yeah, this is the thing here. And so we're looking at, we have to have a system that will, like I said, go back to ensure a decent standard of living, but also will provide the opportunity for upward mobility. Now I get it. For people who don't have the enthusiasm, have the initiative, have the motivation to do, that's one thing. But I'm talking the intentional hindrance. I'm talking about the deliberate blocking of a people from succeeding, and not just you individually. See, they have us so caught up into individualism, so caught up into our immediate gratification that we don't even think about the opportunity for generational wealth. They have us caught in survival mode. As long as we get a little money to pay our bills, maybe buy a house, that's about as far as we go for our children. Buy a house and we can pass it to our children or something like that. But the real opportunity for generational wealth, and for that generational wealth to grow and to be secure, we have to look at everything that it entails to be, especially the way the system is set up, a productive, vibrant member of this society. One of them is education. Colleges cost. How many of you have college funds for your children? Huh? You're already at a disadvantaged playing field. How many of you are going to send your children to college? And how many of you, after being here 500 some odd years as Black people, are still celebrating first colleges? Why are we still celebrating for, oh, you're the first one in the family to go to college? And we don't think that the system needs to change. Why we do more celebrating Negroes coming home from prison than sending people off to college. That's more of a reality in our community. But the system doesn't need to change. And the system will have you thinking that it's your fault. They will have you, these devils will have you thinking that it's your fault, that you didn't make the right choices, that you didn't do something right. Yeah, you made some dumb decisions. I'm sure we all have made foolish decisions. But there are times when you have to look at what inspired, what swayed or influenced that decision. Could have been hunger, could have been poverty, could have been any numerous of things that the system has, and like I said, and I'm gonna be, since everyone's back on, I'm gonna conclude that the system has manipulated to keep, like what Nature Mom said, that bottom of the totem class. They have, in order for this particular form of capitalism to work, they have to have a consuming, unknowing, a lot of times miserable in their existence class. Okay, I'm quiet, Nature Mom. You were doing your thing. I'm going back on mute.
I unfortunately, I don't know where I left off. I was like, oh, when you get on the roll, they make sure they cut you, chop you right at the head, right? Off with their heads.
What's going on right here? Cut the goddamn internet. Cut that goddamn internet. God damn it. We ain't having this type of talk.
Absolutely not. We're not going to educate to this level.
Yeah, they cut my internet too.
That is not allowed. You know, only thing we need to know is what's that octagon thing.
Damn, yeah, they cut my internet too. I'm trying to get you back on. Bloop. They cut mine. I said, goddamn. Okay, Nature Mom, you're talking about. Oh man, I'm lost. Yeah. See,
you were talking about capitalism. You were talking about how it is now and how we're at the bottom of the totem.
Yeah,
the way that it exists.
I think something that's really important here, I want to define two very important points so that we can make sure that everyone who's with us today are speaking on the same exact knowledge points. So let's talk about capitalism. What is capitalism based on, what they call the father of capitalism, Marxism's point of view? We know that there were actually women, and there were people who had a very deep ideology of capitalism before, but let's just make sure that we're on the same exact definition. So when I'm talking about capitalism, we're talking about the bourgeoisie of Marx's definition versus the proletariat. So bourgeoisie are the rich who own, who do not work, and they have complete control of all of the resources. And we have the proletariat, who are the laborers and who do not own, yet must give their time as labor in order for the system to produce money, produce goods that produce money. But they don't own any of these monies. So when we're talking about capitalism, that is capitalism. And who are we as Black people after, the Great Migration, after these great cities that were targeted, bombed, and looted, pirated in America? These communities were spread across every state that I found so far. And I still don't have a number of how many cities actually existed, because this information was intentionally buried. Your ancestors' documents were intentionally destroyed and buried, their bodies with it, the forensics with it. This was an intentional effort that is still collaborated till this day. So when I talk about that capitalism, that's that system. And we were already declared to be the bottom of that system. We were already decided we were no longer going to have our own economic systems. We were already decided to not have education once again, because they realized when we moved to the north and we started having access to education, we swallowed it whole. And we not only swallowed it, but excuse my, language, but we shit gold after we swallowed it. And we knew what to do with it. And we were hungry for it, and we loved it, and we had a passion for it. And we had a very deep, resilient pride that helped us to excel in ways that the rest of the country could not excel. And the target, the same as when they put our ancestors on those slave ships, was to cut our self-confidence, to cut our self-efficacy. That were the first two targets at that period of time, and again, I love this guy. I've mentioned him before as one of my heroes of financial literacy, Jaspreet Singh. He often says, that the first thing that is taken away from you to know financial freedom is the education. It's the first thing taken away from you. And it's the first thing that they took away from us. And one other thing that he always says is that history, may not always look the same, but it rhymes. And it's so true. We can definitely see so many similarities in time. So we can see the similarities to when they put our ancestors on those shadow boats to shackle them and to take away every sense of heritage, pride, dignity, and strength, inner strength and efficacy. And it was done once again when our communities were destroyed after we built them from nothing. So as Blackson and I keep saying, these communities, they started with absolutely nothing behind them, and they built themselves to thrive. And the first thing that they did after they pirated and looted them was they stripped them of their pride and their self-efficacy. So here we are once again. We get into, the 70s. This is after the Black is Beautiful movement, and people are really starting to appreciate themselves as, just brown-skinned people. We're not sure, are we African? Are we American? Are we a little bit of both? Do we have a place? Once again, it's rhyming. And the thing that was taken from us during this era was our self-efficacy, number one, our ability to know that we can. That's what self-efficacy is. For those of you, I'm throwing this word at you because I teach my children this word a lot. When you know you can, then you will. And this knowing that we can keeps getting stripped from us. And, when you put subsidies into the house, into the home, and you say, yeah, you could as a unit, as a family, but now we are going to remove the man from your unit because we are not going to give you these subsidies. Right. We won't give you employment. We won't give you housing that you can own, a property that you could build on. We will not allow you to build your own businesses. We absolutely refuse to give you loans so that you can start your own projects. And we won't even let you cross certain street lines. Right.
Let me say this.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry for cutting you off. I'm going to drop back into the chat because I have a female version of me on here. You say I don't think I could have said it any better. She's saying what I'd like to, add and help with it. But like she's saying, and this is what I say about capitalism where it exists today as American practices, because those cities we were talking about, they weren't attacked because they were capitalist cities. They were attacked because of what?
Because they were thriving.
They were thriving black cities. So they understood with the whole, and that was my point, son, when I was trying to make with you, with MD and everything. If we don't change, we saw what happened when they integrated us. So if we don't change some things, we're if we think that we're going to find that again in this system, they made sure that integration to me was also to make sure that didn't happen again.
Right. No, I agree with that. Yeah. Make sure.
Like I said in concluding, like when we look at the Montgomery bus boycotts, that's the difference. We boycotted the buses. We almost broke the buses. The black nationalists would have said, okay, let's create our own bus line. The integrationist conceded and said, okay, now we get to sit in the front. That's the difference. We get to sit in the front, but we're not enriching ourselves, enriching our people.
Elijah Muhammad had their own buses, didn't they? Or their own transportation?
That's what I'm talking about. You always had an alternative to the integrationists. We had Malcolm, we had King, we had Garvey, we had Martin Delaney. But you and I talked about that. They never teach us in school, nor is it, if it isn't people like you and I, do they talk about the self-determinists? They don't talk about us,
right,
us self-determinists, who say, hey, we can do it ourselves. We have the know-how, we have the muscle, and if we practice an accountable spending, a decent economic philosophy, we have the money. We spend $1 trillion a year.
Yep.
That's more than some countries' gross national product.
Facts.
We just lack economic literacy.
Let's be specific. Just in hair products alone, we spend $98.4 billion a year.
Stop. In
Yanga,
hair
your
products,
sister,
nature.
first of all, Yanga, your sister does hair. You already, man, come on, you know this.
I knew we were blackballed, but I didn't know. She's saying hair care products.
Right.
That's those Koreans that you go in those stores and our sisters and brothers, the weave, the Afro sheen. And here's the crazy part: $9 billion to other people for products that are specifically targeted for us. Those are black hair care products that we don't.
You know
so
what?
this is the point that I'm making.
Specific.
We need to do it real quick.
We are not 97% of that industry revenue. 97%.
Yanga, we need to get Nature Mom and your sister on the same show just to talk about that alone, because that is like a major, just like the debate I had with the Medicare. That's money with the hair care we already got. So that's billions of dollars we had that's money what came out of our pockets.
Why are we buying L'Oreal? And let's be specific. We're buying L'Oreal since 1963, and L'Oreal is still knowingly putting products in our putting ingredients in our products knowingly that are carcinogenics, that causes cancer, that causes alopecia, that keeps us coming back for the products that aren't working. And yet we keep going back for it. So why is that? I did some studying in that. It's because they have brainwashed us since the Black is Beautiful movement to believe, and let me quote the advertisements of the time. Yes, Black is beautiful, but it's more beautiful with our products.
You hear that? Oh, God. Wow.
Y'all gonna make me get my, I know it, I'm about to go get my beret. Y'all gonna make me Black Panther.
Right.
And we still buy that concept today. Right. You know, and it's global. It's not just in America, you guys. One of the first shops that I walked in where I am, and the man takes me to a wall of skin whitening products, and he was so shocked when I told him, if I whiten my skin, I take away my beauty. This is not my wall. And he was shocked. He was just like, oh, okay.
You don't want the light skin?
No, I don't.
But to me, we have the white cream for you.
Really, and it is deeply washed into our dark-skinned Arabs and our Africans. This brain in dark-skinned Asians, because let's be honest, the Asians that are being advertised on their national televisions are not the largest percentage of representation of the population.
Hold on,
they are dark-skinned people.
I'm hearing some hypocrisy here, Nature Mom. You mean to tell me that Qatar is strict on food and diet, but it's okay to sell cancer cream? Am I hearing this right? Okay. You know what? I'm not going to put you on the spot. But there's a restriction on food, right? No Monsanto in Qatar.
Okay, so there's not... Okay. There are some GMO products here. There are some GMO products here.
Okay. So
there's a lot of importation, although what I love to see with the Qatar nation, especially since the blockade, the 4-year blockade that happened, was they did take power of their own agricultural system. So they had one of the hugest shipments of cows brought into their country so they could take control of their food products, because before that blockade, everything was being imported. and to have agriculture that was local was a hobby, not something that is essential like they're trying to build now. So they're trying to build essential farming in Qatar right now.
Okay. So what did
Someone
it take?
asked, they came in a cancer cream.
That was
Planet Free Spirit.
Yeah, Free Spirit, yeah.
Skin whitening creams. Hi. Yeah, so skin whitening creams, which does
that's right. I
have
keep forgetting we're talking
carcinogenic.
to an American audience. Explain to the American audience what skin whitening cream is, because I think a lot of us might be lost.
Oh, okay. I mean, and this is something that should not be such a lost conversation, because since the 1950s, there has been a huge campaign
of marketing specifically targeted at the Black consumer, to straighten their hair and to whiten their skin for the profit of the overall cosmetics industry. So when they call them, I think they call them toners sometimes. They call them skin whiteners. They call them blemish creams. All of these have the same basic ingredients in it. I could give you the very scientific technical term, which I won't, because I got in trouble for that before. But the basic ingredient of this is actually something that you don't want to actually absorb into your dermis, into your bloodstream, because it is carcinogenic, and it does has created cancer, and has been linked to not only cancers but endocrine blockers. So basically your endocrine system, your thyroid system shuts down slowly from these products. So yeah, this is not something you want to have absorbed in your skin or ingested in any way.
Right.
So yeah, but going back to the main conversation, because this is only we could have a whole topic. I wrote a 30-page paper on the cosmetics industry and the way that it has influenced the Black community and industrialization in the Black community since the 1960s. I can take you all the way back, actually, to the 17th century. To present day, of the influence of Eurocentric standards on Black people, and the way that it has influenced our psychology, the way that it's influenced our self-loathing, and where all of this comes from. If anybody's interested in my dissertation, I feel free to DM me or Black Sun, and I'll send you a copy of it. I'd be happy to share.
We're gonna get you a day. We're gonna get you a day, and we're
right. In fact, Yanga, when you get it,
what do you think, son?
Oh, okay. It's a 30-page paper.
I
can give you the most important points.
Absolutely.
I can definitely give you
presentations. Yeah, we do presentations.
Yes. But, back to the topic of today, which is, I love the question that Black Sun asked. So where do we go from here? Because, it's not just enough to know where we came from. It's up to us to take that information and to translate that into actions that actually creates a new difference. And what we need now is this new difference, especially because in this economy, I'm sure each one of you are opening up your YouTube, accounts every day, or watching your local news. And, there's so much coming at you regarding inflation and recession and finances right now. And it's very overwhelming for someone who is at the beginning of really educating yourself what all of this means. How does this directly affect you? And how to process it, cope with it, and do something about it. And I think that the most important points that we can take from this is that it is time for us to, I talk about this a lot when I'm invited on here, is financial literacy, really pulling into your household and within yourselves time every day that you educate yourselves on what is money, how does it work in the system, and where do you fit in on these different levels of economic cycling that are happening. It's important to know where you are. So, I don't know if any of you are aware right now, but there is a huge drop in real estate right now. A very unexpected side effect of this inflation and this recession conversation that's been happening, and all of these huge tech companies and crypto companies that have been laying off a lot of people. But how does that really relate to a community that, one, is still in the wake of Reagan era, that's still in the wake of drugs dumped into our neighborhoods era, after after
Ollie North.
the 2000 Ollie North. Yes, that's a whole nother conversation too. And um uh economic
You know what, Nature Mom?
crushes.
Can I jump in here
Listening, Yanga.
one second
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When you were talking about Reagan and Reaganomics, it kind of reminds me of the Trump era, because Reagan was a horrible president to me, but the money was good. Reaganomics got everybody paid, but at what expense?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The trickle down effect in Reaganomics was good. You know what I'm saying? Even Putin was eating this, but we didn't know he was pumping crack into the community. So we didn't know. And that's why I say about even with Trump, until you do, and I'm not saying that the stimulus package was bad. I haven't done all the work, but what I'm saying is, to me, and this is my opinion, of course, Black people are so quick to go with what is surface without looking at the ramifications and repercussions of money's loosed, what this means. Because like I said, Reaganomics, I was rich doing it. Yeah, I was doing some bad stuff, but I was paid during Reagan.
Was moving.
Money
Exactly.
was flowing. But
As
Reagan
long
was
as
a
you were able to
president for the
work in this system, you
exactly.
you could keep your allies.
I was so ignorant.
That's what it was.
Absolutely. That's what it was. And I was very ignorant of everything that was going on politically, socially, and things of that nature. I was just looking at the trickle down effects of economics, especially from a consumer materialistic perspective, not as an investment capitalist, not as someone building for a future, just what a lot of us are doing today, money being loosed and reckless spending. All right, thank you for letting me interject that, Nature Mom.
No, I'm happy to hear, from you guys. It's so nice. Like, this conversation is just growing so much, and so I appreciate everything that you're saying, and I have to agree with you as well. I mean, I think that going back to the financial literacy, understanding, that this system has been rigged since we were integrated into it, and to how do you overcome any rigged system? You become smarter than the rigger. You get to the situation where you are so versed that you can maneuver your way. It is a chess game. It is poker. It's not blackjack as much as it is strategy. And in this strategy game, we really lost a lot of footing since we lost our communities. When, like I shared last week, when our communities were decimated, there were people who went back to rebuild after they were pirated, looted, everything was taken. They went back to rebuild. But at that point, what they didn't realize was that, same with the hair game and the cosmetics industry, you had so many hard hitting, people with bigger resources and a part of the monopolizing marketing system and
Like Bill Gates.
Media system. Media is just, as we know, we know in our hearts how rigged our media is, but we really don't
Right.
get the psychology of it. And to understand the psychology of it, we are put in a position of panic and stress all the time when we're listening to our media. I was listening to someone, actually, I'll just say it from my own words. Well, going through some life situations. I've moved a few countries. I've owned businesses in the United States. I've owned businesses in other countries, even if I was not legally a resident of those countries.
Right.
I thrived. I built my business, that worked. And what I've learned through all of those situations is that when you build your community and your community supports you, no matter where you are in the world, they believe in you. And I think that the first step is believing in ourselves and believing that we can get there again. The second thing is, why did I build, it's such a risk. Why did I build businesses in countries where I was not a resident? Well, because that's where I lived, and I had children and that I had to feed, and a family I had to help support. And, my back, very similar to the Black communities of the turn of the century. My back was up against a wall. I knew how to run businesses from when I was in US, so I used my skill sets. And when I believed in myself, they believed in me with me. So I think that is the really something, like I keep saying this word a lot tonight, self-efficacy, like really believing that you can is the first step to repairing a lot of the damage that have been done. um, I think another thing personally that I always do is I always remind myself, one, that things are not always as bad as they seem, especially when it comes through the media. The media
Right.
is there to sensationalize and to
Right.
sell that sensationalization. And so they're there to make people panic. When they make people panic, they control markets. They control the way that
Wow.
your money flows. When you can sit back and you can analyze, there's a very different approach that you're going to take when you are and you
Me and
are
Yanga
sitting
are
in the seat
tripping
of
on this
analysis.
because we're going through this on YouTube. So that's why when you said that, it hit Yanga and me at the same time. But
Okay,
we
I'm
won't get into
curious.
it. Well,
I'm
it's
curious. Yeah, you
it's
share
nothing.
that with me later.
I'm sure. Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But really, the psychology is the same. I mean, I think that's one of the things that my family, my husband's always asking me, like, why are you always learning all this stuff, this science and psychology? And because when you know how the manipulation happens, you know how to overcome it. You know what you're
Wow.
looking at. And I think that's really important, to building your self-efficacy. Okay, so the next step would be knowing how to invest yourself where you are. So let's say, for example, you've got $10 in your pocket, but just remember, you've got that $10 in your pocket. You've got at least 10 good people around you that you can, that it's a part of your social network. Because don't forget, we had social network long before Zuckerberg. And
Mhm.
when you know who your social network is and how you guys can really thrive, and support each other, for every person that they know at least six, probably to 1,000 other people who
Right.
can help you get to the resources that you need to get to. So the most important thing before reaching out is knowing exactly what you want to do. So let's talk about, for example, my black son brought up Yanga's sister. She does hair. She wants to do something specific, to bring something innovative to Black hair community. I'm sure that through, Yanga, Nature Mom, Black Sun, and Angel, there's at least 10,000 people that she can reach through those 4 connections. And we have to realize that that's there. Most importantly would be her knowing exactly what she wants to do, being very specific on her goal, being very specific on her timeline, and saying, okay, with this $10, it might only be $10 today, but the next, income I get, if it's $100, I'm gonna live off of 50 of those dollars, and I'm gonna reinvest the other 50. Let's be honest, you guys. Dolce & Gabbana or whatever, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, they thank you. You made them rich. Now you can make you rich. And it's time to take the money out of their pockets and put it back into your own. And it's possible because, like I said, in the hair care industry alone, you are making a lot of people very, very rich. So just imagine every item that you look around in your house right now, you have made those people wealthy. You are their consumer. And the Black community, Black American guy, let me be very specific, because it's not the Black community globally. This is only that 98.4 trillion, is from no billion, sorry. It's a $3 trillion industry overall when you add all the products. But I'm only talking about hair care products alone. That's $98.4 billion this year. And it is projected to grow to over 190 billion in the next 5 years. You are 97% of their revenue.
Right. And how much of that will we see back in our community? 1%, 2%? How much of that? No.
That's a funny joke.
Oh, wow.
That's
Angel.
good.
Angel, you've been quiet, man. What's going on, man?
I'm just in the cut listening.
Okay.
Hi,
okay.
Angel.
Hey, how's everybody?
Very good, thank you.
Very good show.
I would say, back to your question, Yanga, exactly. I think you hit on it maybe 20 minutes ago. Who are we going to buy these products? We're going to the Korean shops. I've been hard hit a lot, especially from people that I love and I care about in LA. I love my community in South Central Los Angeles. But when I talk about the Korean shops and the way that the representation in the Black communities. Okay, after the shooting of the young lady who went in the store and the Korean owner thought she was stealing something, they put a Black person or two in their shops. But no, that is not going back into, the Black community. That is not the definition. And it's the same as Biden's, sorry to pull it up like this, but Biden's White House deals that he has of he wants to do public works in the Black neighborhoods, and he wants to put all these new laws. If you go through each one of these laws, not one of those dollars are actually going to any Black construction companies. They're not guaranteed. None of that money is actually going into any Black education. And when we talk about reparations, you guys, the first thing I'm going to think of as a mother is you owe my children who are descendants of chattel slavery their education for free, period. So I don't care what portion of reparation you figure out your 40 acres and your mill later, just put a whole chunk. Okay,
you know what?
All right, I'm glad you brought that up. Socialism. I'm gonna disagree with you on the socialism, because what is socialism?
They're gonna have you.
No, I'm no. Once again, and I said it earlier, I do believe that there is a difference between paying reparations to a sovereign entity and socialism. I don't support socialism. Socialism means the control of a government that gets to regulate markets. I don't believe in that. I don't think that
I
our
lost you. It means
government.
what?
Socialism
I
means
lost you for a minute.
a control of a government. So, meaning the government owns all the resources and they get to set market prices. I don't believe in that. I believe in private
Yeah,
ownership.
I think that's I think that's more leaning more to communism, and I can understand that. Like you said earlier, if we're using the definitions, capitalism, as a lot of people associate with Adam Smith, and socialism, communism, Marx and Engels. Yeah, but like if we study like Leopold Senghor, African socialism, it really is like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah says, the crime is separating the laborer from the product. Socialism says that me as the laborer, in African socialism anyway, I am directly connected to that product. That I'm being not, you can't exploit my sweat and labor. That we own, that the proletarian, that the worker owns or has a stake. It isn't state, like communism says the state. Socialism still has democracy. You still vote. You still have representation in African socialism anyway. And it's saying that I have a stake in the product. I'm not just a worker that you say my hour is only worth $8. Product in this company and all that. So socialism says that these companies more or less are owned by the people, and that excuse me guys, and that the state, or that entity being state apparatus, is just acting as, I don't even know if it could be the state. I mean, my phone was ringing, but no, says that
it would have to be the state, Yanga, in order to.
Yeah, it'll be the state, but it's not like state like communism. Like in communism, the state is its own entity. In socialism, the state is almost like in a democracy. The state represents the people. But the problem people have with socialism, it does away largely with individual private ownership. Largely. There is still private ownership, but on large individual mass scales. In African socialism anyway. And after your presentation, Nature Mom, I think I'm gonna do one on
did I lose you?
But I said that to tease you, because when you talk about free, and in America, healthcare, education, they're gonna be, you and I know you're not a socialist, we know you're not a communist. You talk about free education and healthcare over here with these capitalists, oh, they're ready to put a sickle and a hammer on your forehead.
Oh yes, yeah. You know, I mean, I once again, when I'm saying a very similar way to where they passed the bill for free education for Native Americans, although we see the way that they handle it. You know, they stick them in the back of the desert and put a bunch of alcohol in their hands, and then they call that reparation. No, thank you. That's why I don't want it in your hands. I want a fund that is a completely separate sovereign entity of the reparationists, and the American government pays their what is it when you go to prison and you pay for your crime after you serve
restitution. Believe me, I know restitution.
The American government
they get that every month.
In my opinion, the American government on every level owes Black Americans restitution. I don't even want to call it reparation anymore. You owe restitution. You have committed heinous crimes.
Restitution, did you hear me?
Yes, thank you. I did. And I believe that the American government owes the descendants of chattel slavery restitution. They have committed heinous crimes. Their crimes are leaking out. There's still we're still waiting for mass forensics to be brought to the table to prove their heinous crimes, their genocidal attacks against descendants of chattel slavery, and we deserve restitution. And I believe that these mass funds of restitution should be put into a sovereignty fund for the descendants of chattel slavery. And the number one area that one of those, those main funds goes to is giving free education to descendants of Black slave and their descendants, because it is one of the main things that was taken from us, the first thing that was taken from us in an attempt to dehumanize us and to take away our self-efficacy. It's the first thing you must give back. So we're still living in the ricochet of that heinous, barbaric behavior. And I believe that is the first thing that should be returned. And should it be returned through the administration, the American administration? Absolutely not. It's like asking the mafia to hold my liquor for me. No, thank you. No, thank you. Or asking the cartel to hold my cocaine. I don't need you to. Separate entity of sovereignty that delegates and helps to properly and with very clear transparency take care of making sure that the descendants and every person still alive to this day having access to education. And when I say education, not just your institutions of brainwashing, any education they feel and can show that will elevate their economic situation, their family situation, their mental health situation, their financial health situation. Absolutely. So that would be step one for me. So when we talk about socialism, absolutely not. I am not a part of socialism in America because, yes, I am an American. I am a proud American. No, let me be specific. I'm a proud Black American who grew up in a system that tried to separate me and my family and my descendants from them. So, I'm not asking you for anything. I'm telling you what I want. And what I want is my right to pursue my happiness and my well-being, and for you not to stand in the way of that. And so what that means for me is I believe that I have every right to economic power. If we wait for this generational wealth to catch up to the wealth that our descendants have built for the white supremacist terrorists and their descendants, no, I don't think that we are going to be able to catch up in that race, not even if we had another Florence Joyner in this race with them. I think that what has to happen at this point is this country pays their restitutions and they put us in a place where we can very systematically and specifically target the places where we have been pirated, all the specific places that we have been economically blacklisted and blockaded. And we need economic systems that reconstitute and rebuild our citizens that have been deemed, prisoners, who have been deemed, what's the word? Sorry, say it again.
Yeah, disenfranchised felonies. Nature Mom.
Felons. Yeah, exactly. No, thank you.
You need to, Nature Mom, let me say this. Come back to America and I will be your campaign manager. Nature Mom for president. I swear, we can run you. I think we can do it.
We're going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
We're gonna make America great again. Yes, we're gonna use both of their slogans. We're gonna make America great again. Yes, we can. So,
you
are
know,
spitting.
we just need some
You are
specifics.
delivering this thing. Listen, you guys, I jumped on
Me
late.
too.
I'm running. I gotta run. I'm gonna be listening though. I'm gonna be listening. Great show, Nature Mom, man. Damn. I'd have made it my business to jump on a lot earlier. I'd have did what I had to do. Great show. NMA, what's up, man? I didn't get an opportunity to speak. Angel Snuffing Up, it's good to see you, brother. I'll catch y'all next go around. Son, I get up with y'all, man.
All right, peace.
I was gonna say, son, I love you, but they already got rumors out about us. I can't tell you I love you no more, man.
I told y'all. Yanga. Hey, you know what? What's up with y'all, man? We got
salute, man. Salute to the chat. I'll catch up with you guys, man.
I told you, Blackson and Yanga got secret coded messages. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You okay, Black Son? Go ahead and get it out.
Oh no, I'm just clowning a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Yanga. Yeah, I'm just clowning a little bit.
No, I don't have much. I enjoy the show. I don't want to mess up the bill, but I do want to take one time and explain socialism, the road to communism. As it's an ideology. When I say that, people say, "Well, show me where that happens at." But one day I do want to explain the methodology. But I enjoyed the show today. Like reparations, when you talk reparations, is supposed to be restitution, but they leave the restitution part out for the heinous crimes, not during slavery, not just during slavery, but the 100 years up to the civil rights movement. 100 years.
Yes.
And they act like the civil rights movement was something that they gave us. No, we got civil rights in 1865. So that's 100 years of criminal activity against American citizens that has never been paid for or justified. All you did in 1964 under the Civil Rights Act was solidify what we already had. We were already civil rights citizens. So you just admitted for 100 years you was breaking the law against us, and we never got that restitution.
Absolutely.
That's my point.
Yes. I have to agree with you. And, a lot of people don't see the civil rights movement the same way that you do. And I have to absolutely support that. We were already given the 13th and the 14th Amendment. I think that, a lot of people are arguing right now the Roe versus Wade case, and little do they really want to admit that case is only one line of the entire 14th Amendment. The reversal that these different states are doing when they compromise the 14th Amendment, the main 3/4 of that law is our ability to be declared American citizens as Black people. This is the main point, and no one discusses that. Everyone talks about abortion rights. They did the same thing in Poland very recently. They took away abortion rights. The left-wing government, right-wing, government just took it away. They have full power. And surrounding countries said, hey, you know what? And they took it away for every circumstance, for rape, for oh, sorry, my brain just went off. But they took it away for endangerment of the mother's life. They took it away for, knowing that the baby is not healthy, many reasons. And the thing that was amazing was how all of the surrounding countries said, okay, your Polish government is doing this. You guys feel free to come over to our country anytime you need to take care of your health, ladies. And these neighboring countries were very open armed, but their law taking away women's right was very singular. It was only to that specific issue. America's issue with this Roe versus Wade is that they are compromising the entire 14th Amendment. And the main stake of the 14th Amendment is the fact that it declares, it designates whether or not we as Black Americans are American or not, and whether or not we get to maintain our freedom and our voting rights. And yet that is not a conversation that has hit one media outlet. I'm looking, I keep looking, because I'm curious. Sometimes you don't hear things inside of the country, but sometimes people will cover it outside of the country and say, hey, this is what they're saying inside the country, but this is what this issue is really about. And no one's even saying anything about that point outside of the country. And I think that, like, what I'm looking at right now at the economic situation, the fact that Biden is giving all of these forgivenesses. He's trying to build the IRS task force over the next 10 years. I don't know if any of you are aware of this.
No.
They want to include, I mean, 800 and I don't have the exact number in
I
front of
thought
me,
we already
but
had
almost.
an IRS task force. What?
Oh, they're beefing it up. So
Oh.
they're already planning in this bill for those that are retiring, and then they want to beef up their IRS task force over the next 10 years. So they're saying that they want to do it because economically they want to make sure that huge companies are going to be taxed, like our Amazons, Googles, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But we know the truth. When you look at the specific on what they're proposing, it says nothing about that. It says that, they are just trying to put more should we say labor in place to reinforce policies that are already taking place. So what are the policies that are taking place? Are they going after these, big companies to put more tax dollars into the system? No. Most of the people who they audit are over 70% people who make 75,000 or less a year. So if they're beefing up that task force, what is that telling me? That's telling me, ladies and gentlemen, that not only did they take away all of, your health status during their pandemic, not only did they, minimize your employment opportunities and put more of you on the streets, take more of you out of your home since 2008. Not only, did they pacify you. I mean, I'm sorry, but when I saw that Crown Act of 2001, passed, where, thank you, I now get to wear my hair as it naturally grows from my scalp,
Right.
without someone being able to discriminate against me. And just like you said, this is a 2001 act, and I'm supposed to be proud of this. No, I've been proud of my hair since I discovered that it was beautiful curly spirals, not damaged by creamy crack hair straightening systems that were influencing my caregivers to make me look as European centric as they could from a very young age, and exposing me to those carcinogenics and those endocrine altering and blocking substances that compromise my health from a young age. But now you're trying to make me feel good that my employer cannot openly discriminate against me wearing my natural hair in the workplace and fire me. We're in 2001, and like you said, we were emancipated supposedly in 1865, which still took another if I'm not mistaken, it took another I had that data in front of me. The last slave in Texas that was actually freed was 1921.
Right.
That was told that there was actually an emancipation that even took place, and yet through the civil rights movement, the only thing that I can see that you really told me was you don't have to build your own industrialization. You don't have to build your own economies anymore. You're welcome to come and sit in the black sections of our stores and buy our products.
Right.
And I say, no, thank you. I prefer to be the producer. I prefer to be the entrepreneur. I prefer to be the educator. I prefer to be the financially elite. And I prefer for you to buy from me because you were never able to produce these goods from the beginning.
Right.
And that's why you have exploited me and my descendants to this day. No, thank you anymore. So I guess, sorry.
No, that was
I had to
good.
go off in the tangent.
Well, we coming up to 2 hours.
Yeah. I gotta go sleep.
Right. Shoot. Man,
I,
great show.
I want to end on this. Did y'all hear what the Fed said? The last news, the Federal Reserve said the problem with the economy is that wages are too high.
Of course they did.
So that's the problem with the economy. The wages are too high, and that's what's causing inflation. It always attacks the working people.
Yes.
Okay, since you're on here, Inyame, because me and Nature Mom discussed this earlier, why are they burning the crops since the wages are so high?
I mean, you have to ask them. I don't know.
They're paying the farmers $38,000 an acre to just destroy their crops.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what I said. Wow, like what the hell? That sounds like a man.
This is not the first time in history. Remember, history rhymes. And the last time that happened was in 1929 to 1935 during the Great Depression.
Right?
Right.
Jeez, man. What were you
So
saying, Angel? I'm sorry, Angel had to say. Angel.
Oh, I didn't say anything. I was just enjoying the conversation.
Okay, so what you're saying, Nature Mom, is that the Great Depression was caused by these destruction of agriculture that they did before?
No, the Great Depression was caused by too much borrowing and debt, which is what we call our boom and our bust systems. But what spurred on, basically balancing their economic books was to create forced famines. So what else does a burning of a crop do but create a forced famine? There's already famines that are being forced all over the world right now. We just don't pay attention to them because they're not in our backyard.
Right.
If you don't include, the tainted water of Michigan,
Right.
I mean, that's water to American citizens.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's been going on for a long time now, and the federal government did not make that priority.
In fact, the federal government is the one that caused that. They're the ones that, what I'm saying, because it was state ran. They switched the waters over and to the man.
And let me be very clear. One of the bills that Biden has put on the table is, this interesting that it's this like new reconstruction of infrastructure in black neighborhoods, where they're going to go in and basically they're going to be repiping the systems, and they're going to be removing, as they say, lead piping. Okay, first of all, when you have black companies that are a part of this construction project, they're going to make sure that great things are going in their neighborhoods if they're not corrupt, correct?
Right.
So how come we don't have any guaranteed black companies on the bill for this? The second thing is what you're telling me through these bills is you're going to go in and you're going to create this long period of disrupt. You're going to be tearing up roads. You're going to be making, more traffic congestion. You're going to make public transportation harder to get in and out. You're going to make
gridlock. Yeah, gridlock.
You're going to be tearing up people's neighborhoods, their businesses for an extended period of time. And this is supposed to be good for Black communities. I can't exactly see how this is going to be good for them, especially when the bills are going to be going to people who do not deserve at the same degree and for such an extended period of time restitution for attempted genocide, attempted annihilation of a group of people. So yeah, I'm really baffled by these bills as I've read through them, and I can't really see how they are all being written in the name of Black Americans, yet they're not going to benefit Black Americans at all.
Dang. Y'all, we're gonna have to do this again next week. Shout out to Zanzi. We got a show tomorrow with Zanzi dealing with the socialized Medicare system in Canada. So y'all don't want to miss that. Zanzi, I see you in the chat. So we're on for 6 o'clock. Zanzi, 6 o'clock for Sunday. So want y'all to join us. We're going to continue this conversation. And yeah, man. Canadian healthcare. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're going to deal with the Canadian healthcare. So, man, thank you, Nature Mom. Appreciate that, man. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Nyame.
I can share with you guys.
Yeah, man, this was great. This was great. Like I said, join us again tomorrow at 6. And any closing statements or no?
Band together, get smart, start building. Even if it's $10, start building.
And with that, we out. Peace.
Peace.
Bye, y'all.